Well, Joe Phelps, it is good to have you on the Zoom call. And I would love to hear more about this workshop and this course you've got coming up, More Light, Less Heat. But first of all, who's Joe Phelps?
Oh, thanks. I am the Justice Coordinator for the Earth and Spirit Center. I was a pastor here in Louisville for 21 years. And 20 years ago, I wrote a book that was published by Josie Bass called More Light, Less Heat: How Dialogue Can Transform Conflict into Growth. And that became sort of the seedbed for the class that we're going to offer.
Well, I don't know that we have any kind of conflict or division or polarity in our culture right now. Are you sure this is relevant these days?
Right. Obviously, this is a huge topic, and even the question of can we have a conversation is a major one, and one that we will have a serious, we'll spend some serious time talking about. Yeah. It is that, however, possible to find people who have views different than our own, with whom we can have a sustained, ongoing conversation that can produce, as the book title says, more light, more things that help the world and bring growth and reveal things, rather than just heat, noise, shadows, and burning things up. I believe in it. It's not magic. It's not a magic bullet, but it is a valuable tool, I think, to have in one's communication toolbox.
Right. And I have to imagine that tool could be deployed, say, in a marriage that's mixed in terms of political opinions, or family systems, neighbors, colleagues, on the broader sort of civic stage. Am I right to assume that this is a set of tools that works from the sort of micro onto the macro level?
Absolutely. And we'll talk about that continuum of using tools for dialogue, even when the word dialogue is never spoken or never even implied. It's just part of the way you communicate. But then there are times when we say we need to dialogue about this, which is something different than debate, something different than discussion. And so those are the kind of things we talk about in the class, as to how to move to that, and how to enter into that in a way that can hopefully produce the light rather than the heat.
Wonderful. And you've got, as I remember, 2 different formats for this, both a workshop and a 4-week course. Do you want to say anything about the differences and similarities there, and how they fit together?
The 1 hour workshop is kind of an infomercial that I hope will invite people into the 4-week class. But
and that's free, right?
And that's free. It is free. And it also will give you a couple of the tools of dialogue. Obviously, we can't do it all in 1 hour, or we would do it in 1 hour. But we can give you enough to hopefully give you a few tools and whet your appetite for more.
Excellent. And that is Thursday, February 4th from 7 to 8 p.m. Yes. And then say just a word or two, Joe, about the 4-week version of that. I assume that's where you really dig in, right?
Yeah, that's when we spend some weeks looking at the guidelines for dialogue, where we look at something called a polarity map that that's been a great resource for me, understanding different points of view and the strengths and weaknesses in both, and how one navigates all of that. So yeah, the 4-week one gives us a time to sort of unpack the tools of dialogue, as well as talk about some of the barriers for dialogue, because if you don't anticipate those, it'll be gravely disappointing. But if you know they're coming, you can find ways to kind of avoid or mitigate them, and that's always important.
Okay. So this is Wednesday evenings starting February 10th from 7 to 8:30. And that's $100 regular price, and $80 if one registers before January 27th. Does one have to take the workshop in order to take the 4-week course?
No, you really don't. You would know more of what to anticipate, but in the class, in the 4-week class, we'll start obviously week 1, and we'll start talking about dialogue. There'll be a little bit of repeat, but not very much at all.
Okay. And if one wanted to kind of overdose on Joe Phelps this semester, you could also take, that person could also take your 10-week, Where Do We Go From Here mindfulness and racial equity course along with Michael Hicks, right?
I think that's probably too much Joe Phelps for anyone. My wife would vouch for that.
Never can get enough of Joe Phelps. So
Thanks. I love the opportunity to teach this class. I do believe in dialogue, and I'm glad in this day and age to have an opportunity to think about it in this particular context. I think the other class, Where Do We Go From Here, that I'm going to teach with Michael Hicks, a Black scholar here in Louisville, just opens our eyes and gives people an opportunity to think about Dr. King, to think about reparations, just to get that in our consciousness, which gets it marinating in the culture. And that's how the world changes.
Well, I am so grateful, Joe, to you and your work as the Justice Coordinator here at the Earth and Spirit Center, and all of the world-changing work you do, both locally and beyond. So may you be well, and every blessing on these courses. I invite everyone who's watching to take one or all of our offerings. You're in for several different treats. Thank you.
Thanks.